I know.
Now you know.
Thank you. It does looking for. I may be busy. What you feel? Because if you have to say, no, I gotta talk to that person first. It's like, bring it right to the heart, smile.
What?
They don't have 30 dollars. So it's in that, it's being in the primary, although they're constantly running ads on television about it. What? On all of us, I mean, I don't see any Democratic ad.
I hadn't seen any. My wife and I were saying the same thing. Like you see all these Republican attack ads, but I think she's seen one Jasmine Crockett ad one time.
Are you sure it was her? Or it was the ad attacking her?
No, it was her. It was her.
Okay.
But only one compared to all these other Republican ads. Like where the Democrats at?
Somebody's running one that's attacking her
Mm-hmm.
also.
Suggesting that she's a Republican candidate.
No.
Yeah.
Kids would love to go up against her.
Oh yeah. That's one that my wife saw actually. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
With the polls, suggest she's leading in the polls.
She is.
That is in the Democratic.
Is it a close lead or is it a good margin?
It was actually, she was 5 points beyond the margin of error.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's what I remember seeing. So,
All right, let me get them to turn the music down and we'll jump right into it. Now I'm assuming you're gonna need me to click the next slide.
we
Oh,
can,
okay,
if we
all
plug
right.
this in,
Yeah,
we won't have to do that. I can be there.
Plug it in. There's a okay. Now I'm plugging this into the computer, I guess.
Yeah, do you have a room?
Yeah, how do we do it? Yeah, I'm sure
They put it over here.
it acts as a. I'm not sure there's a port for that.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm. Yeah,
that's the.
it's-
I don't think it's the same.
It's the same.
It is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow your lead, brother.
There you go.
It went right in.
Yeah.
Look at you, trying to show off. I know how to do it. Nobody cared.
I been there 45 years.
That's all.
Only
yeah,
45
It
years.
kicks in the 46 years. See, that's how you don't know now. You left too early. Test that real quick, Dr. Andy.
No.
No, test that real quick. Test your clicker. I fixed it. I got it. Don't worry about it. I took care of it. Yeah. I'm on it.
Yeah.
I'm on it. We
You're
good?
on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
I fixed it.
I didn't leave
Yeah.
early. I just got a job in paying.
Yeah, well, baby. All right.
Don't stop him.
Don't sound it. Okay.
Nothing just. What you tell me, you say is, that being married to. He's not acknowledging that approach, you know how sometimes they fail to recognize the privilege associated with, being in a good sweet spot.
Okay, as soon as she gets back to her, she's gonna turn the music down. You have any questions for me?
I was trying to figure out where's the right sweet spot.
Okay.
Oh, that's the
This
sweet
your
spot.
stage, yeah, facing that way.
Facing that way.
Yeah,
Okay,
you
that's
get
the
it. Yeah,
sweet
see
spot.
yourself on the camera, and they'll just try not to go past those two chairs. That's your stage. Yeah, so if you walk up, so stop right there. So you can see when you go off the screen, you off the screen.
When I'm off the screen, I'm
Yeah.
off the
So
screen.
step up. Right, top right there. Come back, take one they say right there. So this, yeah,
This is the
right there.
second.
Yeah. Now I will follow you if I have to,
No,
but I prefer not to because I don't want to be moving the laptop
no,
all the
I
time.
don't want to do that. All that.
Okay. And we do have some I can put it back up. Got a little leeway, I can push it back a little bit. Give you a little more space. Okay, so the music is off. So I'm gonna wait for our brother to come back and then we'll jump right into it. I'll do a quick intro. That ain't gonna last long at all.
That's why he came and he served as a moderator for
The debate. Yeah, I saw the video. Yeah. Okay.
He was so generous with his time and his effort when I reached out to him.
Beautiful
and said,
brother.
"Could you
Beautiful
do
brother.
this?
I love us wide.
Do
Man,
that?"
he's an awesome brother.
Yeah, he really is. He's gonna come to we're gonna do for Spring ISD, we're doing civic engagement, Civics 101 on February 24th.
Okay.
And he was wanting to come and see what we're gonna do, because we're gonna talk about the election process, what citizens' responsibilities are, what the difference between a primary and a general election and how you differentiate.
Okay.
And what should be on the ballot.
Right.
How people should, what kind of knowledge you need when you go to a polling location, or what you need as a citizen to know about the candidate. So
Okay.
we're gonna do that.
Do you know Sister Rain Eatman? Ebony Rain Eatman, do you know her? 'Cause she has a Civics 101 and we're gonna bring her in for that. Is yours similar to that or?
I haven't consulted with her. I'm gonna talk to her to see exactly what she's doing.
Okay.
Because we partner with Spring ISD to do this, and as a matter of fact, this afternoon, we're going to Booker Elementary School.
Okay.
And capture the people in line.
Mm-hmm.
When they're waiting for their children, we're gonna talk to them about voting in the election, in the
Okay.
primary, when early voting starts.
Okay.
To create
So
awareness.
I'm asking because if you cover things that she does not, then we can bring you back, which we need to do anyway, and you can continue to give the people more information. I mean, we want
All the life work.
hey, you got the knowledge. It does no good if you don't share it. So it ain't my fault you got the knowledge.
Well, I believe that.
Gave me an idea. The school that I within walking distance from me, the parents there until them
Go.
about voting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though I can speak Spanish and the majority is Spanish.
Well,
That used to be an all black school.
Used to be is right.
changing the demographics now. Let's not become xenophobic.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but you want to be able to communicate with those you're talking
Well,
to.
that's what I'm saying. So we could get I have an intern. I have an intern. She's
Okay.
a Spanish speaker.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's possible.
So we can recruit. But with ICE, we're not hearing as much about it on the news here. But apparently they're wreaking havoc on the northwest side of town. And the mayor
Here?
and the mayor is cooperating.
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Dallas people are not cooperating.
Now I thought our mayor said that he wasn't cooperating. Yeah.
When did he say that?
A few weeks ago. Did he, Ms. Fonlo, say he wasn't cooperating? The mayor said that?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Say it. And he cannot come face to face with me because he knows he dislikes me, and guess what? He's
Yeah.
All right. We're gonna go ahead and jump right into this thing. It's 8:47. So thank y'all for being here. I sincerely appreciate it. We've done this before. We brought in Dr. Andy Johnson Benifield to talk about the ballot. To talk about we started to talk about the ballot. We can hear you and what's gonna be on it. So I'm gonna turn this thing over to Dr. Johnson, Andy Benifield, and she's gonna lay this thing out for us. You want to start this directly from your presentation, or you want to say a few words first? How you want to do it?
I'm really excited. So much attention has not been focused on the March primary, so I thought we should do a good, quick civics lesson on what's on the ballot for individuals. So I'm really excited about that. It's always great to come and to expand in terms of the Houston Voting Initiative. Primary mission is to educate, empower, and mobilize citizens in marginalized communities of color in the greater Houston area so they can become advocates and they can participate in the political process through voting. So that's why we're here.
Amen and Ashe. All right, so your presentation is up and it's on you.
Okay. Okay, why isn't it moving?
I don't know. Do we need to point towards that? No, point toward this. Is that it? I don't know. I hope it's not because I'm sharing my screen. Well, let me see. Maybe will I have to click it? You might just have to say next slide.
Okay, the mission, I've already gone over the mission. So the question today is what's on your ballot?
Oh.
Um,
So we good right here from this point here?
Mhm.
Okay.
the primary election is March 3rd. Early voting start February 17th, which is 5 days from now that you will be in polling locations casting your ballot. So especially the people in the greater Houston area and in the state of Texas vote doing early voting. This is optimum to get educated about what's on your ballot so you'll be prepared and ready to go forward. So what's on your ballot?
Did you do that?
It moved.
So it's working now?
It moved. Oh,
Oh,
so I want to tell you a little bit about the Houston Voting Initiative. We started 2 years ago. In our first year of existence, we registered 1,000 people for voter registration. I don't think it's so much that we need to do registration as we need to get out the vote.
yep.
That was in 2024. In 2024, there was 18.6 million registered voters in the state of Texas, but only 11.3 of them voted in the 2024 election. So we need to so that means that 7.3 million people stayed home.
Right. A lot of people.
And nationally, 90 million people didn't even bother to go and cast a ballot.
Yes,
And so democracy is only as good as its promise.
Yep.
As that's Barbara Jordan said that. So last year we had 1,700 people to show up for in-person events. We did 80 plus community partnerships in terms of outreach activities, tabling, presentations of that nature, 500 plus college students that we reached out to at Lone Star College, the University of Houston, Houston Community College. We were actually doing outreach, and TSU students. 70 plus strategic community partnerships. That means we established partnerships with at least 70 plus community partners in the greater Houston area. So this is our impact statement. You can't see it in small print, but we have it up online at our website. So we're doing the election countdown. 0 days to registration. You can always register to vote. It just means that your registration, if you didn't register by February 2nd, you cannot vote in this upcoming election on March 3rd. But however, you can go ahead and register because there will definitely be a runoff election on May 26th. And there's a city council election on April 4th, I think it is, that's coming up because there's a vacant spot on the city council. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to exercise your right to vote and participate in the political process. As I said, there are 5 days left for early voting, which is February 17th, and 19 days to election day. That doesn't seem right, but yeah, 19 days to election day, which is March 3rd, the primary. And in Texas, the question becomes, who represents me? So if you don't know, and you can put your telephone up to the screen and scan the QR code, it will tell you who's representing you because there have been some changes as a result of the redistricting. Right. So you may not be where you used to be. And so you need to find that out in advance. Don't wait till you go to the polling location on the day of election that you plan to cast your vote. Make a plan for voting so you will know where it is that you need to be and who's representing you in the political process. That is critical. In order to become an advocate, in order to know and have access to services, one need to register, not only register, but know who that person is that they're going to vote for. So don't wait to the last minute. There are plenty of opportunities to find out information. And right here in this room, we have copies of the voter guide. If you can't get them from here in this room, you can go to lwvhouston.org and go to the website and download the PDF. You don't want to do it. Oh, go to a public library. Actually, there's a partnership at all the public libraries and community centers should have them on hand, and there's no charge for it. So definitely go get the information that you need so you can make an informed decision.
Any Harris County?
Any Harris County Public Library or Houston Public Library.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're two different
Good to know.
entities.
Yeah.
And with the college, it's like Cy-Fair College their library is in partnership with Harris County Public Library, and Lone Star College is in partnership with the Harris County Library System. So they will have copies of the voter's guide in the library. And if those things fail to work, you can go to Vote 411. It will tell you who's on your ballot and you can print out and take it with you. You can take the voter's guide with you into the polling location, but you can't take your phone. Your phone cannot be utilized in that square. And if you have disabilities, you can go to the polling location. They have a number you can dial, and they will come out curbside to assist you in terms of casting your ballot. So if you have a disability, if you're 65 plus, and you can get a vote by mail ballot. I strongly recommend that people go in person if it's all possible to cast the ballot, because the Postal Service said there's no guarantee it will be postmarked on the date that you drop it off.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't arrive by the time that on election
Don't
day,
count.
your vote will not count.
Yeah, wow.
So it's important that you go in person if at all possible. And if not, request and get your mail ballot as early as you possibly can so that you can mail it in time. And if you have someone who could take it to the post office, to make sure they get it stamped. To make sure it gets stamped that day with that postmark in terms of the possibilities. Kind of.
And that website is vote411.org.
.411.org. Yes, it is a place where everybody throughout the state, actually throughout the nation, could go and plug in their address, and it will tell you what's on your ballot, what positions are represented. In the state of Texas right now, to be honest, in the state of Texas, there are 150 members of the State House of Representatives who are on the ballot, and it depends on which district you live in that you will be casting a ballot for one of them. There are 16 of the 31 members of the state Senate on the ballot, which you, depending on which district you live in, you will be casting a ballot for. There are all 38 members of the U.S. House of Representatives are on the ballot. So depending on which district you live in, and remember I just told you that the districts changed as a result of mid-decade redistricting. So you need to check who represents you to find out who that person is. I went from Congressional District 9 with Al Green. Now I'm in Congressional District 36 with Ballot. So changing district lines affect who it is that you would vote for. So make sure you pay attention to that and find that out.
Now, what you just said was a lot. A lot of people, well, a lot of people in general, it can be a bit much. So can you give us a high level understanding as to why you need to know these things, and then give us a concrete reason as to why it's important that you pay attention to who your representative is and why that matters? Because we miss that mark so often.
You need to know that because these are the people that make decisions about funding for education, funding for healthcare, funding for police, roads, bridges, things in your community. So there were at least 2 county commissioners in Harris County on the ballot.
Okay.
The Harris County, the judge, Harris County, the Commissioner Court judge is on the ballot, and it's an open seat. So there are candidates running, at least 3 candidates that I'm aware of are running on and it's a partisan election. That means that Democrats and Republicans, and it would have that delineated by their name, whether they're Democrat or Republican when you go to the ballot. In Texas, let me reiterate, there is no straight ticket voting, meaning you can't go in there and just vote for, and especially in a primary, there are so many candidates who are running. But Texas has something called a semi-closed primary, which means that when you go into the polling location, you have to identify which one you're voting for. And this year, apparently, in 2024, it was both parties had agreed and had their primaries in the same locations, which meant whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you could go in and you could vote at that polling location. This time, they have opted, the Republicans wanted to have their primary separately. So if you're a Republican, you may have to go to different locations to find the polling location that you need. But that will all be published online. Harris Vote does an extraordinary job. The county clerk's office does an extraordinary job. At harrisvotes.com, you can find out not only what's on your ballot, but you can find out who the candidates are. You can find out your nearest polling location, whether it's near your home, your school, or wherever, your doctor's office or whatever. You can find all that information out there. Yes, ma'am.
Can or can't we go any polling?
Yes, In Harris County, they have countywide voting, which means that you can go to any polling location and cast your ballot
For early voting, a period.
for early voting
Okay.
and on election
Oh,
day.
and on election day. Okay.
Yeah, they're very good about that.
Amen.
And in some other counties, Fort Bend County, Galveston County, in Montgomery County, you have to go to your precinct in order to cast a ballot on election day. You just can't go anywhere. So make sure that you're aware of that in advance and allocate enough time. Usually the polls are open from 7 a.m. in the morning to 7 p.m. in the evening on every day except for Sunday. Usually Sunday is like 12 to 7. Usually on Sundays, and Metro usually provides free rides to the poll. On the buses and trains, they give you a ride to the poll. And if you have special disabilities, if you call them, they will arrange for a pickup and drop off. And sometime other organization will provide a voucher through Lyft or Uber to facilitate you getting a ride to the poll.
A quick question. We were talking about this on the ride over, and I think since July helped us with the answer, but I want to ask you just to be sure. We were wondering, since Christian Menifee just won the 18th, there is an election that's also for the 18th in March. Primary, yes, ma'am. So will he be on that ballot, or does he not kick in until November? How will that work as far as Christian Menifee and the 18th?
There are people running in the primary. The runoff election that happened July 31st between Amanda Edwards and Christian Menifee. What?
January 31st.
January,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, January 31st. He won that election, but that was only to complete the unfinished term of Representative Sylvester Turner, who died on March 4th in 2025.
Okay.
So he's clear to January 3rd of next year. However, since the primary is already in place for March 3rd, he would have to run to seek a full term. He's on the ballot and Al Green is on the ballot. From what I understand, excuse me, that Amanda Edwards suspended her campaign the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Her name will still be on the ballot because it's too late to unprint.
But didn't she lose? They lost, right? So she.
Yeah, but she was running on the ballot. See, last year we had this really strange, well, a couple things happened. For the runoff election, the governor called a special election, which was in November.
Uh-huh.
And the governor gets to set the date for the special
Yes,
election,
ma'am.
so in November.
I-
And so there was no clear winner with 50+1.
Right.
So he scheduled the runoff election for January 31st.
Mhm.
So as a result of setting that election, the last day to file for the March primary was December 8th.
Okay.
So since you didn't know the outcome, both candidates filed their paperwork to run for a full term for that seat.
Okay, so if Christian and Amanda were in the runoff, Christian won that runoff,
Mhm.
but Amanda is still going to be on the ballot in March as well as Christian. Does that mean that the day after the election, Christian could no longer be the representative, or is he going to be there until January regardless?
He's gonna be there until January 3rd until they swear in the new people who are elected as a result of the March 3rd primary.
Okay, and
The November election, because the November election, you have to get elected during the general election to occupy
which is
office.
the primary.
No, the primary is preliminary election. You get to choose your party's candidate. That's what a primary is, to get to choose your party's candidate. If you're on the Democratic side, you will be voting for Democratic candidates who are seeking that particular office, whatever it is. And if you're on the Republican side, you will be seeking that party's nomination. Clearly, in some races, because there are so many people running,
Mhm.
I was down in Fort Bend County the other day, and they had 10 people running for the county judge position. So you know there's going to be a runoff election
Right.
that will happen in May to do that. The primaries held for the party to make a determination who do they want to represent them
Mhm.
in the general election. And subsequently, who's going to occupy that office. Many times that what people don't understand in the primary, that there are oftentimes uncontested races, and so only one person is on the ballot.
Right.
That means that person automatically going to be on the general election ballot. It means they're automatically going to win.
Okay.
That happens far
Okay.
too often.
Okay.
This year, this election cycle, All of the positions are filled by Democratic and Republican candidates for the partisan election.
Okay.
All of the positions this year in 2026, they're candidates from both parties who are running, seeking office for all of the positions and on the ballot. And major parties vote statewide on the same day, the March 3rd primary. Everybody votes on that same day if they choose to vote then, or they vote early. And the candidate's party designation is listed by their name on the ballot. You know whether they're but you have to identify that you're voting in the Democratic primary, identify you're voting in the Republican primary in order to get the ballot to vote for those candidates.
What is your Libertarian Green Party?
Well, they have a nominating convention
Uh-huh.
to decide who their candidates. The Libertarian and Green Party have a nominating convention, and they decide who their person is going to be, and that person will appear on the ballot for the general election.
Okay. So it's possible that Christian could be in office until January, then be replaced by whomever.
Yes, that is a distinct possibility
Yeah.
that whoever it go up against him, or whoever wins in the party's nomination process,
Mhm.
whoever wins the primary will go on the ballot for the November election. They will go up against on the Democratic side, they'll go up against the Republican candidate, and whoever wins that bid in November, they subsequently will become the new person who will be sworn in on January 3rd,
And that's
2027.
in November. So
Yes.
in November,
That's when we have the general midterm elections. We call them the midterm elections.
and that will be a Democrat against a Republican.
Yes,
Okay, so the time before that is these people running, they will be in the primary,
Mhm.
and that could not be Christian Benifield, although he just won.
oh, he is on the ballot for the primary too.
Right, but
He's already filed. He's on the ballot for the primary.
could he not win that? Is what I'm asking.
Could he not win in the primary?
Yes, ma'am, although he just won.
Yes, he could.
Okay.
There's a possibility he could lose.
Yeah.
He is up against Al Green on the
Yes.
Democratic side. I can't remember if there is any other candidates who
There
run.
is.
There are.
Okay.
Gretchen Brown.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the voters guide have all of these people and information about them if they opted to fill out that information.
Yeah, I noticed that. Why would someone opt not to fill out it?
Well, the League of Women Voters does an excellent job as former president of reaching out to the candidate. They reach out to the political parties and they reach out to the candidates individually, and they allow them to upload the information and put
Right.
it into the
I'm
system.
saying, why would the candidate not do that? Is what I'm trying to say. I don't know either. Okay, I'm just wondering. It's like it being your best interest to do
It's
this.
one of those things that you're limited in your marketplace of ideas by not choosing
Yeah.
to do that,
Yeah, yeah.
because the voters guide is in wide circulation across the Harris County, the Houston Public Library system, and in community centers. So people are opting not to have their voice represented in those
Right.
squares.
It doesn't seem to be a wise decision.
Well, political candidates often make decisions that we may not agree with or may not understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Their campaign or the candidate makes a strategic decision about where they want to be represented.
Okay. Amen.
Okay, so the primary, in terms of an open primary, Texas has, you don't have to identify, no party registration is required. In some states, you have to register. When you register to vote, you have to identify which party you're identifying with. And that means that you can only vote in that party's primary. But in Texas, you self-identify the day that you go to the polling location. You get to say, I want to vote in the Republican primary, or I want to vote in the Democratic primary. You get to self-identify that day and decide what you want to be. The interesting part is once you vote in that party's primary, when there's a runoff, you have to vote. Oh, you can only vote in that runoff for that party that you voted for initially in the primary.
Yeah.
For the runoff primary election, you have to stay within the confines of that party. However, if you've not voted at all in the primary, you can vote for anybody you want in a runoff election. So that is very important that you know that you can't all of a sudden play bait and switch.
Mm.
You can't switch and say, well, I voted in Democratic primary, but I'm gonna vote in the Republican runoff. You can't do that.
That's the thing. People do that?
Well, I think there have been attempts to do that,
Okay.
but you can't do this because the law does not allow it. You must be registered to vote in a registered to vote, period, to vote in a primary or any election. You must be a United States citizen. I remember back in November, they voted on a constitutional amendment saying that, but it was already the law, so it really didn't change any dynamic. You must meet the age requirement and residency requirement, which means that you can register to vote at 17 in 10 months, as long as you're going to be 18 by the time the election happens. So you still have a question?
Okay, finish.
You can register to vote, as I said, when you're 17 in 10 months, as long as you're 18 by the time the election is going to occur. But you must do registration. Texas is not one of those states that have same-day registration. So usually you have to register at least 30 days prior to the election. February 2nd was the deadline for the March 3rd primary election. February 2nd was the deadline that you had to register by that day in order to vote in the March primary. If you changed addresses, if you moved and you needed to change addresses, you needed to change that address by February 2nd, because where you live determined who are the candidates going to be on your ballot.
That's right.
So if you move, say, from this area to Midtown or the Heights, then you have a different address. And so they will not have a record, because they'll ask you, is this the address that you have?
Yep.
And if you say something differently, then you're not going to be able to cast a ballot in that particular race.
Okay.
So it's very important that you change your address when you move. You can go to votetexas.gov and do a change of address. You can go to votetexas.gov. You can go to votetexas.gov, fill out your voter registration application, but you have to download it, print it out, sign it, and mail it in. They don't have online voter registration either in the state. Texas is only 9 states do not allow for online voter registration in the United States out of the 50 states.
Okay.
So,
Ms. Conley, you still got a question?
No, I forgot.
Oh.
sorry.
Go back and get all that information to about 100 and something seniors.
Okay, well, if you want me to come in and second, be your second person, your 12th person on the field, I can do that.
12 man.
12, I can,
Yeah.
no, 12th woman.
12 woman, my bad.
12th woman, yeah.
Yeah.
If you want, as a backup, because we need to make sure that the seniors have the information they need to make informed decisions. So
But this will help.
that will help tremendously, yes.
Thank you.
Offices on the primary ballot. As I told you, all the statewide elected executive positions are on the ballot. That means the governor, the lieutenant governor, the comptroller, land commissioner, agriculture commissioner, all of those positions are on the ballot. Statewide.
Yeah.
All of those positions are on the ballot. So the interesting fact too about Texas is there has not been a Democratic elected person statewide since the 1990s.
Wow.
So just a Trivial Pursuit kind of thing.
Yeah.
So Republicans have dominated since Ann Richards was governor back in the 1990s. The Republicans have dominated statewide elected position, and the governor gets to appoint the Secretary of State. That's the only position that's appointed at that level. He gets to appoint the Secretary of State. All of these other individuals, the Attorney General, are elected independently of the governor. It's not like his ticket is that he gets to bring in all the people that each of these individuals run separately their own campaign to get elected to represent in those positions. So on the ballot, if you want to get a good look at your ballot, if you live in Harris County, go to harrisvote.com. And they will actually show you every position that's on the ballot when you put in your address, so you will know exactly who they are. And as a side note, look at the voter's guide, look at those candidates, and make a determination, check, and then take that piece of paper with you to your polling location. Because the ballot is fairly long. In Harris County, the ballot tend to be long.
So you can take your notes, but you can't take your phone.
You can take your notes, but no phone. Yes, ma'am. You started your question.
Our seniors,
Mhm.
some of them cannot go to that Harris vote. They barely, this past election,
What-
they forgot to go back to the poll.
Well,
Okay, well, you can get some sample ballots for them. Harris County Clerk's Office have sample ballot. You can request, or you can download a sample ballot and then just make some printed copies. Now, it's expensive, but you could do that and hand them out to them.
it sounds like you might want to try and have her come speak if you can, if there's enough time.
You can get some sample ballots. You could get some sample ballots and take them, but Harris County Clerk's Office has sample ballots. In the past, they've had them and you could request them and you could pick them up and you could distribute them. And you could have a workshop with the voter's guide present saying, okay, these are the people representing you. Go down the list and find, since this is the area you're in, and pick your candidates and take this.
I will not have to go off to 90, whatever, pick up that sample ballot.
What now, John?
It depends on
You can't download
where
it?
they have, yes, you could download it. Off that harrisvote.com, you can download it off that site.
Okay.
You could download it off the site, but then you're responsible for printing it out.
Whereas
Whereas if you go, What?
They don't have a way to print at the senior center? Senior center? They don't have a way for you to print stuff at the senior center? That you go to?
the Baker Murphy Center.
they might be.
I would think they would have,
Very
yeah,
proactive in terms of civic engagement, so just that, if you don't ask, you can't receive.
right.
There you go.
That's
And
right. You seem like you're a bodacious person. You
And
can help.
I'm looking at this guide, Ms. Fondle, this thing is 79 pages. So the more you can do in the short time we have left, the better and the easier it's gonna be for the seniors.
Yeah,
because
It's a lot. Uh-huh.
they have, it's someone to read.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah, that's a
and
lot.
nobody is gonna read all that.
Nobody's gonna beat all that.
No. How the primary work, voters choose one party ballot. The candidates need 50+1 to win in the primary. If no candidate gets the majority, at 50+1, then the top two vote getters get to be on the ballot for the runoff. Only the top two. So some of the offices on the ballot, at the federal level, you have one United States Senator, Senator John Cornyn is running on the Republican side, and Wesley Hunt and Ken Paxton. Those are just some of them, but there might be others listed in the voters guide. Those are the top three candidates who've been ads on television and things of that nature. On the Democratic side, you have Jasmine Crockett and James Tellerico. They're the two candidates, but there could be others because oftentimes, like for the governor's race, I noticed this guy named Bob Dole came to a candidate forum we had at the Luke back on January 27th.
Bob Dole.
Yes, and he was running for governor.
Mm.
So you can, as long as you pay that filing fee, you can run for anything that you desire to run for in that way. So at the federal level, you have a Senate seat, and then you have all the 38 U.S. House seats. The county, you have the county party chairperson on the ballot. On the Democratic side, I know is for Harris County, it's Mike Doyle, and I think Tracy Gibson. And then on the Republican side, I'm not sure exactly who, but it should be in the voters guide.
The
And-
voters guide is nonpartisan, right?
But
The voters guide is
the
nonpartisan.
voters guide is nonpartisan. They reach out to all of the candidates who are running. And they also reach out to the local party to help them facilitate people answering the questions and responding. The statewide office, as I said, you have governor, lieutenant governor, comptroller, agriculture commissioner, land commissioner. And then you have some of the railroad positions in terms of district, the State Board of Education. Those are some of the other positions that are on the ballot that you will need to find out. When you go to who represents me, you find out who those people, what districts you're in terms of that representation.
Ideally speaking,
I do.
it seems like the best way to go about doing this, especially for our seniors. Ideally speaking, this seems like it would be a multi-workshop kind of thing because there's so much to cover, so many spots, so many people. ideally, wouldn't you want to try and, maybe,
Break it up in parts.
yes, ma'am, because it's so much.
You got
And again, I say ideally.
you have 5 days before early voting starts, and when do they plan to vote? Well, there's a possibility that you could do it that way. You could start with the federal offices and then move down to just do the statewide elected office, then do the county and all of that to go through the ballot. Or you could give them a homework assignment, give them a voter's guide, give them their ballot, and then have them to come back with their suggestions. and
Are you working in an
recommendations.
organization that does that level of community engagement? Because that's awesome if anyone does that.
People willfully will agree to do that. Almost all of the civic organization will be willing to come in and do a workshop.
Cool.
I
Yeah,
think they will
I think
go out,
moving
they
forward,
come
I'm a
in.
spirit, so there's a lot.
With the Houston Voting Initiative, we primarily want to educate people so they can be informed.
Right.
We feel like when people are informed, they feel empowered.
Yes.
And as a result of that, you can mobilize them
Yep.
to help them make the change they want to see in their respective community.
And I think what you said initially, to my question as far as why it's important, I think a lot of people just don't get it.
Mhm.
They don't get that your police, your school, your ambulance, your fire, everything that
Fine.
affects your day-to-day life, there's a voting process for the vast majority of that. And if you want your life to be better, you absolutely must be engaged, but there's a disconnect.
Yeah.
So the more our civic organizations can do to educate and inform, the better off the people will be, because they have a better understanding of why this thing is so important.
That is true. And so decisions that are made in your local government will affect you, whether you're sitting on the sidelines being a spectator
100%. Yeah.
or you're in the arena.
Yeah.
So it's best at least to be in the arena, then you have a fighting chance, rather than sitting on the sideline watching things happen to you, as opposed to being part of things happening for your community.
Yeah. Like
And
Shirley
when you
Chisholm said,
get out and vote and represent, when you have high voter turnout, then that is kind of a mandate to the politician. They have to respond to you,
Right,
that you help get them elected,
right.
and that you hold them accountable. Don't just vote and go home and sit up and say,
They think you
"Fix all
done.
my problems," that you've done. That is not an accurate
That's not
representation.
how it works.
You need to still be engaged. You need to still be involved in the process. And as I said, all of the Texas state legislature, all 150 members of the House are on the ballot.
Mhm.
So it depends on where you live. You need to know where you live and what district you're in, so you know who you will vote for in that particular contest. And the state Senate, 16 of the 31. I don't know whether you saw recently, they flipped a coin in Pasadena because the local election, they tied. And the turnout was low. People did not go out and vote as they should have, and so turnout was low. And so they flipped a coin.
I did see that.
From what I understand in
Right.
Texas politics, they used to play Texas Hold'em to resolve when it was a tie. Yes. Go ahead.
Me myself personally, I think voter turnout right now, because people are tired of voting.
Really? Can you imagine all those people in ancient time who fought so gallantly, put their life on the line, trying to get that right? And now we are already like family. She was sick and tired because she didn't have the right to vote. And we're sick and tired of voting?
Voter fatigue is what she's saying.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
Can't even wrap my brain, or I can't even conceptualize that concept.
You got a different kind of brain.
I can't conceptualize.
People are like, I gotta vote
fatigue.
again. Yeah.
Because the idea that you're a citizen and that you're supposed to play a role in the political process, you're supposed to be involved in this democratic system. Benjamin Franklin, the lady asked him, "What did you all do when they were writing the Constitution?" He said, "We created a republic, ma'am, if we can keep it." So it's up to us to facilitate the keeping
Right.
of the republic. And if we abdicate that responsibility, I guarantee you there is always a willingness for somebody else to step in the gap.
Yep.
So
Somebody else will.
So we got lots of local judge races on the ballot, the county office, the county judge and commissioners in Harris County. So we have numerous positions on the ballot. And you should have gotten your card, your voter registration card. It looks like that. On the screen that you can see it, it will tell you which districts you live in and who you need to
I have not received mine yet.
They were late. They changed over to some system, at the state level, and there have been some problems. Some people just told me they got theirs last week. It
Yes,
just came in the mail, so it's forthcoming. You haven't gotten it yet. It's coming. It's coming.
It's on the way.
One of the ways that every person, before they vote, before the election day happens, they should check their voter registration status. So go to votetexas.gov, put in your information, and if you see status and it says active, that means you're good to go and vote. If you don't, what?
So you got the card, you still need to take.
I would just do it as a fail-safe. Because, technology is only as good as when it works perfectly. It's wonderful when it doesn't, So check your status. If you miss 2 federal elections, you could be in suspension status.
Oh,
And that means that when you go to a polling location trying to vote, at most, you could only vote a provisional ballot. And some people ran into that doing early voting for CD18 when the winter freeze, 2 organizations went to court and extended the early voting time period to make up for the 2 days that it was closed during the freeze. And so the people had to vote a provisional ballot because they didn't know whether a court was going to overturn that decision. And so therefore they had to keep those ballots separate. They couldn't automatically put them in the mix with the rest of the ballots to count. Make a plan to vote early or on election day. Whatever it is, make a plan. That means you need to review the ballot before you go to cast that ballot on election day. Review it. Know who the candidates are, because he said 79 pages in the voter's guide.
yep.
You need to know who's listed in the voter's guide that match with your community and match with your ballot and make a decision about that. Check your precincts and congressional district. So if you got that card in the mail, it tells you all that on the card. In every clerk's office, election clerk's office, you can go and you can find which precinct you're in and look at it. I pulled the one out for Missouri County. I'm in precinct 60 and I pulled it up and I looked at it to see who was on that, who was representing me in these various locations. But it's pretty thorough right there. And maybe not all the people have received their new one, but it should be forthcoming. That should not affect your status or your ability to vote though. That should not affect your ability to vote.
You go online, saw where the card is, and it's got all the current information. Just having to see the card.
Well, some of the things that happened too, they expired, but then the redistricting that happened also affected it. And the state had switched over to a new system, and apparently they've had some wrinkles as a result of that. Technology is good and wonderful, as my husband could tell you in terms of election politics, but technology is only good when it works. One of the other things to be aware of is both parties' ballots may include non-binding proposition. So it's not just the candidates that are on the ballot. Each party put forth propositions about what the party stands for. And so the voters who choose the Democratic Party or the voters who choose the Republican Party get to see what those propositions are and get to vote on them. Okay. And that could take a while, because sometimes there are 13 to 15 listed propositions. So pay attention to that when you go into the polling location and vote. I recommend you vote all the way down the ballot. Don't quit because you say it's long and it's arduous or you have voter fatigue. Hang in there. It's worth it.
So
Yeah.
these 13 propositions, I'm assuming they're different than the 17 we just had a few months ago.
Oh, yeah, they are. They're just,
So these are new?
This is just in terms of the party.
Okay,
This is just for the state. This is just for the state party.
okay.
This has nothing to do with our constitution.
Gotcha.
No, no.
Okay.
Now that was serious,
Yeah.
constitutional.
Yeah.
That was very, very
So
serious.
this is not as serious?
Well, it's serious. You're expressing your allegiance to that particular political party and that you stand for the principles that they stand for, then you vote yes for
Yes,
the
ma'am.
thing.
I got it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Because you're self-identifying as belonging to that party. Unlike in some states where you have to register belonging to the party.
Okay.
Only the people coming to primary. And normally in 2024, when there was a primary, 900 and some thousand Democrats voted statewide. and 2.3 million Republicans voted.
Mm.
So the reality is what, 3.2 million people voted in total in the primary. Personally, I consider the primary most important election because that's when you're actually deciphering which candidates who are competing. You're getting to decide who's going to be the nominee. So you should spend a lot more time looking at that ballot and reading about these candidates and figuring out which one of them you would like to move on
Right,
to the next state.
right.
Because by the general election is you more often than not, you have 2-3 charges, the Libertarian candidate, the Green Party candidate, if they make the ballot and have a position individual running for that. But Republicans are the dominant two parties that dominate that process. And so you have limited options when you get to the general election and who's going to represent you.
Question.
Yes.
If the person loses in the primary and they decide to run as an independent, are they
Good question.
able to get on the ballot in November?
Yeah, they can go out and collect signatures. They can't collect signatures from people who've already voted in the Democratic or the Republican Party primary. They have to collect other signatures and you have to collect a certain percentage in order, and they have to be verified and they have to be registered voters in order to get on the ballot. Yes. You can still get on the ballot in that sense. It's very labor intensive and usually it's an expensive proposition because you have to collect signatures. If it's a statewide office, then you have to collect signatures from across the state. If it's a county office, you would have to do it in the county level.
And I've helped some of the judges do just that. Signatures.
Yeah, it's an arduous process. Because oftentimes when you go to events, you think you're going to capitalize on that, but all those people are not from that particular area or the county or whatever. And so you have to make sure that they are. So you probably need to, if they say you need to collect 5% of the registered voters or 10%, you need to make sure that people are registered voters too. So you need to probably collect 2 to 3 times more. So when they go through the verification process and make sure they write legible, the signature so you can cross it, because they have to cross. There is somebody who's going to cross-reference every single one of them and cross them out, go through the data.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's a verification process.
Yeah.
Make sure you met the threshold. So it's not taking it lightly. So the reason Tamani asked me, why should you vote? Policy making decisions that affect you in terms of the school. In the state legislative session last time, the school voucher issue came up. Now the vouchers are available for parents to apply for them and get them. And so schools, education, funding for education comes out of the state legislative session. They'll be in session again in 2027. So funding for healthcare, state level funding for healthcare, also at the national level, some of the programs that are funded healthcare, especially in terms of mental health care, some of that money comes from the federal level. So when you're electing individuals, make sure you pay attention to what they are saying about the issues and how they feel about certain kinds of things in terms of funding. Housing. The federal government puts a lot of money in terms of housing, Section 8 housing and public housing thing. So you need to pay attention if you're one of those people with a Section 8 voucher or whatever it is, because a lot of those programs have been cut tremendously. And the new budget is being processed. Last week, the House and the Senate voted on 5 of the appropriation bills at the federal level to fund the government. And so you need to pay attention to what can be taken out. Environmental protections. Some people live in what's called the cancer cluster.
Right.
You need to be paying attention to that and what that means in terms of legislation and the Superfund and the cleanup sites. Because a lot of things dealing with environmental issues are actually being rescinded.
Yeah.
So you need to pay very close and very strict attention to
Being
that.
rescinded, meaning they're taking environmental protections off the.
Some of those things and some of the guarantees in terms of what level of arsenic in the water, some of the things in terms of public health issues about vaccinations.
Wow.
Those things are being adversely, right now in South Carolina, they have a measles outbreak. And they say it's rapidly growing. I saw Dr. Oz on television yesterday telling parents to have their kids vaccinated for the measles. It's a proven vaccine and it works.
Right.
But now we've had 2 outbreaks. We've had one here in Texas and now we have one in South Carolina.
Both of measles.
And measles is a highly contagious disease and it can be very, very deadly because it could cause brain swelling and a pregnant woman getting measles can actually die.
Do you by chance know if I'm sorry, wait a minute.
We as adults, if we've had that vaccination for the measles as a child, we don't have to worry about it.
We had like a 90% actually the measles was considered eradicated in the United States.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
You might have one selective case or something like that because people were doing vaccination because you create what we call herd immunity when you have like 90% of the people are vaccinated, but within the last, I would say the science in the last maybe 20 years at most, that you've had many people raising concerns about that vaccinations period. And people have opted not to have their kids vaccinated.
Right. And isn't the current
And as a result of
Kennedy,
that,
the current, what's Kennedy's position right now? Director of something? Isn't he pushing
Health and Human Services.
That's a dangerous person to have in that position when you say vaccinations on all that.
And he's not a medical doctor.
And he's not a
No,
medical doctor,
he's
yeah.
not a medical doctor.
It's fine enough?
Yeah, she asked the question, if you've been vaccinated.
Yeah, actually, you should have immunity, but I would just check to be on the safe side. I would just check with my physician to make sure that you don't have to get a booster. But some things in later years, you've had to get a booster for it. In later years, you've had. My mom talks about when they were growing up, they didn't necessarily have those vaccinations. And she lived to be 103, so she was sturdy. You know, and they probably didn't have all the vaccinations that had. But her sister was a pregnant woman and she got measles and the baby died.
Whoa.
Measles is that deadly a disease.
Wow.
Yes, measles is very deadly. It is
not
highly contagious and it's deadly.
Man.
So so health funding, public safety in terms of police, fire, all of those things in terms of public safety concern. I don't know whether this is one of the issues that came up last night on the news that I was watching. They revamped the flood map, so you need to pay attention to that too, because that means if you're in one of those zones, your flood insurance is probably going to go up if you have it. And if you don't have it, you might consider getting it, flood insurance.
As I'm listening to you speak, and I'm listening to the questions, and I'm looking at this 79-page guide, is there any, as a citizen of this country, as a voting person in any municipality in this country, given everything you're saying and the importance of it and the impact of it, is there anything more important for a citizen than voting? Voting awareness and voting?
I would say that it's your civic duty. And they said people don't like to hear you say that. And young people don't like to hear that people bled and died for your right to participate in them. But one of the things that happened, I was just thinking about Bloody Sunday happened in March.
Yeah.
You know, during that time period, they do the reenactment, March 3rd primary, but the Bloody Sunday happened like March 5th, 6th.
Mhm.
They always do the reenactment. And I know you might think that happened in antiquity, but the Voting Rights Act was passed in 1965.
Not that long ago.
And the reason I say this, and young people may not can identify with this, my parents was a half a century old before they got the right to vote. They were half a century. They had never been afforded the opportunity. In Alabama, they had the poll tax and the literacy tax.
Yep.
And my father had gotten drafted in World War II, and yet he had no say with regard to who's elected and who's making the public policy decisions that affect his life as a African-American male.
Yeah.
In that time period. You had no voice, no vote, no options. So I would say that many of the things, and I've heard young people say, well, I'm not political. Every decision made is made by other people will affect your life, whether you're political or not.
That's right. If you don't do politics, it's going
Your
to
school and your education, everything will be what kind of curriculum you're going to have at school,
Yeah.
what kind of books. The State Board of Education decide about the books that you're going to get exposed to, the material. I saw the other day that votes have consequences because Cy-Fair board got new members and they rescinded some of the decision made by the previous board about deleting pages out of books and not being able to cover certain material. So voting matters.
Yep.
It affects you. And as a society, one of the things that we're increasingly seeing, the literacy rate in the United States has been dropping.
Mhm.
The data indicate people are not reading. Reading is fundamental.
Used to be.
It still is.
Yeah.
Because it is still fundamental because you can make unwise choices when you don't have enough information.
Yes, ma'am.
You can decide something. You can let your attention span be dissuaded by a bright, shiny object when your pocket is being picked.
Mm.
So we need to keep our eyes on the prize in the sense that there are things and issues that are coming before us that matter, and that we need to make sure the things that matter are highlighted and emphasized. And so this is the primary schedule. The last day to register to vote for this March 3rd primary has already passed. Early voting starts February 17th through the 27th. So you've got basically 10 days to actually cast, even through the weekend. The polling usually stay open from 7 to 7. The only exception is that Sunday. On that day, February 20th is when you request your mail ballot. That's the last day you could request your mail ballot. But for anybody out there in online, in social media, whatever, go ahead. If you need a vote by mail ballot, you can request one if you're 65 plus, if you're disabled, if you're pregnant and going to give birth 3 weeks before, 3 weeks after the election, you can request one. You can request. In Texas, they have very stringent requirements for people in terms of a vote by mail. In some states, they automatically you're going to get one, but not here.
How early does the guide get out?
What?
How early does the guide come out?
The voters guide, actually, people could pick up the voters guide last.
No. I mean, after this election is over, after the primary,
Mhm.
when is an updated guide coming? How early do you guys get the information out?
True that they are going to do one for the runoff. If they do, it'll just simply be online. It will not be a printed version.
Okay, so.
But there will be one for the general election
Okay,
in November. So it usually comes out no later than mid-September.
okay. I'm asking because I'm simply thinking about the importance of getting this information to the people.
Mhm.
And not just handing them a guide, because they're not gonna do anything
Yeah.
with it. There has to be workshops, especially for our seniors, where you can methodically sit down with some tea and crumpets and say, look, this is what's on this thing, and you need to be paying attention. And that's a process that takes time,
Yeah.
but you need the information
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
And you have time to still have those work sessions you said for the senior. There's still time to do that, to do workshops and walk through the guide and say, this is what's
Right,
happened.
right.
Here is your sample ballot. And then make your cheat sheet. If you don't want to print out the sample ballot, then make your cheat sheet. A friend of mine was talking to his wife methodically. She's a lawyer. She goes through and she does it for the judges. She methodically comes up. She check all these records, the American Bar Association, and different entities
Yeah.
and things, and develop a list
Yeah,
that she uses, and she shares it with some of her friends to make decisions about.
she does that for herself.
For herself and a
Okay.
group of them. Another friend of mine, she and a group get together, they get the voters guide, and then they do online research for the candidates who are running, and they come up and decide who they're gonna vote for based on that.
That sounds like it needs to be it needs to be an event needs to be made of that, whereby we get together and we have a good time, play some Marvin Gaye in the background, figure this
Wait,
thing out.
I actually think the churches could do a much better job. You know, the black
Well,
church-
amen.
the black churches have been the root and the heart and the soul of community, used to be. Now, some churches are doing a much better job than others in that arena. And so the churches could serve as an institutional structure. This Saturday at Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, we're doing a workshop on what's on the ballot, just like
Yep.
we're talking about right
Yep.
now. We're going to have copies of the voter guide. And if people want to do some walkthrough, have some information about that to help facilitate. We are trying to educate people
Mhm.
so they can be empowered and we can mobilize them. Because every vote counts, every vote matters. We need every person who's eligible to vote to participate in the primary
Right.
too. Not just wait till the general election, or not just wait till the presidential election in 2028. It's just I can sit this out. If people don't remember, in 2008, when all the groundswell of support in the African American community, people went out and voted for Obama. 95% of African Americans voted for Obama. And then in 2010, they decided they're going to stay home.
Right.
And Congress totally changed the direction and the trajectory because other people were emboldened to go out and vote, and we sit home.
That's right, because we voted.
Well,
Can't allow that.
whatever reason, whatever the motivating factor
Yeah.
is, but we stayed home,
Yeah.
and it had consequences.
Yes, ma'am.
So your vote or not voting has consequences. Whether you vote, if you don't vote, clearly it has consequences. And as people in the community, an underserved and underrepresented community, we need to be proactive instead of reactive. Because it's difficult to undo something once it's been done.
Yep.
Because from the November 2025 election with the 17 proposition that we talked about,
Yes, ma'am.
only 2.9 million people went to the poll and voted on those, voted across the state.
State
2.9. And they passed.
Yeah, they
Every
passed.
single
Every last one of them.
passed.
Yep.
But it's binding on the 31 million people in the state of Texas, and it will have a resonating effect for a long, long time.
Yep.
Because it's difficult to undo a constitutional amendment once it's in the Constitution. It's very difficult to undo. So the starting part is what? 10% of the people made a decision for 31 million.
Isn't that something? Yeah.
And so if you're sitting on the sideline, you're conceding the power that you have because your vote is a franchise,
Right.
just as valuable as Gatlin Barbecue or Sherwin-Williams Paint. It's a franchise.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't use it, you lose it.
I just want to make a statement. I am Catholic. My church, they don't do enough.
Well, put some fire in them. You can fire them up, can't you?
Light a fire.
I should be able, but they don't believe in political.
Yes, they do. That's not true. The Catholic Church has been a long history and tradition of social justice in terms of the death penalty and abortion. So yes, they do believe in it. Well, I'm not gonna get into that part of it, but I just know that
they don't want to get so involved. I know my church does not get involved in political stuff unless, and I've got people belonging to this church. They call me. And I'm going.
you can be their social justice warrior. You, if not who? You.
Some people, the majority that's calling me, they do this.
If not you, then who?
There you go.
Yes, you got the job.
Congrats. You're hired.
Come and join the Houston Voting Initiative. Volunteer. We can come and do workshops for you to educate you so you can feel empowered and so we can mobilize you to be more actively engaged in the political process, not simply by voting, but becoming advocates for the services that that are available through public service and through institutional structures in our society. Support civic education and other engagement. Partner with us. If there's a particular initiative that you have that we can wrap our mind around in terms of like-minded organization to expand that. So HoustonVotingInitiative.org. Follow us, share us, engage, and take action with our social media platform, and your vote counts. Your vote counts. Your friends' votes count. So develop a plan that you're going to take 2 or 3 people to the polling location with you when the election happens, that you're going to try to educate them. I know she's going to do her job because she's already said it. She's got to educate these seniors. So let's educate not just seniors, but young people too, and help them understand what's at stake. And the idea of saying democracy is on the line, that does not resonate with people, but say this issue you're affected by. If you get these benefits, the subsidies for your health care, they said more people in the state of Texas signed up for ACA than had ever signed up before.
Which is?
But the premiums are going to go
What
up.
is ACA?
The American Affordable Care Act that was passed back in 2010.
Yeah.
So giving people access to health care, the subsidies have been rescinded.
Mm-hmm.
That was put in place during COVID. So it's gonna cost more to have access to healthcare insurance.
Yeah.
But more people signed up in the state of Texas, they said, than had ever signed up before,
Mhm.
because people realize that they need access to healthcare.
Yeah, yeah, and the level of ignorance among so many people, like people saying, sadly, a lot of MAGA people saying that they love the Affordable Care Act, but they hate Obamacare, not realizing that it's the same thing because they bought into the propaganda. So that level of ignorance is extremely high and dangerous.
Education, educate,
100%. Yes, ma'am.
educate, so they empowered and mobilize.
And with a lot of people's faces, I guess too expensive, well, budget for it, like, should be
Yeah,
budgeted.
like you budget for the things you want. Yes, ma'am.
Do they?
Yeah.
Because it was.
They should.
It's expensive, because I had to.
You
sign
had,
up for
oh,
the Affordable Care Act.
oh, you did? Okay.
And it was expensive, but guess what?
They provided subsidy.
It,
What?
I dropped it in my budget.
You dropped it in your budget. You had a budget. Many people are not economically advantaged to have a budget.
Yeah, don't even know how to budget.
They don't know how to budget.
Yes.
And so maybe we should do some workshops.
We need some
on budget.
finance classes on how to budget, huh? We only knew somebody.
She is if they follow through. And
Amen,
they
amen.
actually do it.
I can dig it, I can dig it.
Well.
We can have workshops for parents. Well, you know, workshops for parents to teach them about money management.
Yep.
If they, you know, some parents require that.
Let me know if you need some.
Some parents require that if they give their kids so much money as an allowance,
Mhm.
that they have to give so much. They have to save so much. They
Good
have to
idea.
give to the church or some other organization and charity and reach
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
They teach them very early how to, because you, as an adult, it's more difficult to, you know, it's
Old dog, new tricks kind of thing?
Yeah.
What they say.
cool to be acclimated to learning new ideas and living in a very different way. But public policy decisions made by elected officials affect us all. It may affect some people more seriously than others, or may have a more dramatic impact on your life depending on where you are in terms of economics or where you are on the economic scale.
Right.
But policies have impact. And so our job as citizens, our job as being people of color, and taking into account our historical reference point, that we have a responsibility to go out there and vote and have our voice heard, because people did die trying to secure that right.
Yep.
And I don't want to miss an election because, or whatever, it's important. And now with early voting, an extended time period, that you don't have to go down to the county courthouse to register anymore. And you don't have to go to that one polling place on election day. There are plenty of opportunities to
Right.
register to vote.
Right.
And one of the great things that the Houston Voting Initiative is doing that I'm really excited about is we're doing a movie series.
Okay.
We're saying that this is the way to bring community together. We'll talk about it offline.
Yeah.
But that we'll have movies in churches and community centers. This sounds like a place that we could do a movie here.
Sure.
And invite people from the community to come, and then we have a dialogue and discussion how people can get more engaged.
Right.
I think this is cultural arts bring people together in a way that
Yeah.
talking points may not, or talking events may
Yeah,
not.
and I think coming at it from a different angle, from
Yes.
an entertainment, if you will, edutainment, if you will.
Yeah, and
And-
we have some refreshments, and people can talk, and we can figure out what kind of strategies that we need to deploy in our community to reach people, and we can do it at least quarterly to bring people together,
Right.
have a discussion, because I think it's critical that we bring people together and for people to realize that they have power and they can exercise their power in the political process.
Right. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
before I close this thing out, can you tell people where they can find the guide one more time?
The voting guide is at the League of Women Voters Houston.org voters guide. So go online. It's in a PDF format. You don't want to print out 80 pages. But you can look at it and write down. You'll find out who all the candidates are. So start doing your homework to make your plan to vote. Early voting does not start until February 17th through the 27th. So make a plan and take 5 friends with you to vote.
Amen.
And the SAVE Act passed in the House of Representatives yesterday, which will require even more identification, like a birth certificate, passport, and things like that when people go to vote. So we need to be cognizantly aware of that it's going to the United States Senate, and then the question of whether it will pass or not. So you might need to start writing your senator right now, calling their office and letting them know that what your position is on that particular issue.
Okay. Well, amen. All right. So thank you very much again, Dr. Annie Johnson Benifield. I appreciate it. Before I close this thing, does anybody have any announcements they want to make about anything you guys are doing or involved in? Okay, so if it didn't hit you guys here and online, this is a big deal. This is a 79-page guide. And trust me when I say it is information rich. And we have to understand, like Dr. Johnson Benifield said, voting matters because the things that you're voting on affect your day-to-day life, especially on a local level, but most certainly from a national level down. The things that we're facing right now with this presidency is only because a certain group had an agenda. They mobilized and organized around that agenda. They got that agenda passed. Now you have billions of dollars being cut out of programs that people need to make their lives easier to live. All of that is politics. All of that is voting. And it most certainly affects us from a national level, but locally. Like she just said, every major office and department in this state is up for election or re-election. So we got to pay attention. We got to be plugged in. We got to be in tune because these things happen for a reason. People have agendas, and those agendas aren't always pro us and pro our community. So if we're not paying attention, we're always going to lose. And if there's one thing that remains constant in this country with every single election, if one thing remains constant, is that they are always going after your ability to vote. They're always working to make it more difficult for you to vote. Why? Because it matters. If it didn't matter, then they wouldn't try so hard to make it so difficult for more and more people not to be able to vote. Because they know that the more people that vote, if their agenda is not for the masses, if the masses vote, those agendas aren't going to pass. So this is why we do Thursday morning breakfast. This is why we are here, because we absolutely must find a way to be the bridge between the information that we need to make our lives better and easier and those that need that information. Dr. Annie Johnson Benifield is a treasure trove of information. And she's willing to share her treasures as it relates to that information. We lack as a people. We are hurting because we don't have the vision, and we don't have the vision because we don't have all the information, and we don't understand how you can build your own vision. All this stuff matters. So we have to, and I'm gonna take it personally to try and not try. I am going to organize an event or several events around workshops. Like I love the idea of a movie review. We used to do movie and documentary reviews, and then have conversations after that. If more of our people knew and understood who the brothers and sisters were in Lowndes County in Mississippi in the late 60s, early 70s, they came upon the realization that if we're 80% of this county, we should be running this county. And of course, the powers that be did not want them to be voting, and they made it very difficult. Some people lost their lives because they were trying to exercise their right to vote. And illiteracy, a lot of people couldn't read, so their voting guide was pictures and cartoons to help the people understand this is who you need to vote for, this is what this job does. And they made a difference. And this was in the late 60s, early 70s. And we have yet, as a community, to understand the importance of that level of one-on-one education, one-on-one engagement, mobilizing and organizing on a grassroots level. If we don't get back to that, then we're going to find ourselves in a world of hurt. And like Dr. Johnson Benifield said, once certain things are done, it's very hard to undo them. So we have to understand that we are most certainly, with this administration, we are in a fight to ensure that our lives aren't a living hell. And as of right now, as long as it's one person, one vote, we have a chance to make sure that some of the things that we want and we need come to pass, and not always what other people want and what other people need. So With that, I want to thank everybody, of course, for being here, for showing up, and thank those that are online and watching. Always remember, as one of my mentors said to me, and I try to close out with every event, no one can do everything, but if everyone does something, everything will get done. Sister Ada Edwards, absolutely awesome sister, awesome mentor of mine, and she was heavily involved with politics here in the Greater Houston area. So on that note, thank you guys very much. God bless, and we will see y'all next Thursday.